you were good enough to hold a seminar for us recently, and the reflection from that was that there are people who are looking to invest in properties. Well, from a lending point of view, I mean, what would be your initial reaction to somebody adding to their property portfolio?
Well, it's a great question, because I think we all know people that have maybe a small portfolio of properties that's grown up over a number of years, either by accident or by design. And traditionally in the mortgage lending market, they've been dealt with on a standalone basis. So when each property is bought or refinanced, the lender's mainly looking at that property itself, what the rental income is, and what the monthly payments on the mortgage are. From October this year, there's new guidance coming in for mortgage lending that means that anyone who has 4 or more properties will be treated as what's called a portfolio landlord, and lenders will have to look at them much more from a business perspective to say, how is this portfolio performing overall, including all the costs across the portfolio, all the income across the portfolio, and make an assessment based on that when lending is required. And that's quite a big change, and I think that will mean that some lenders might even exit the market and decide not to participate where there's larger portfolios. But for investment in property going forward, I think it will mean a big change, and people just need to be aware of that, and they need to make sure they keep accurate records. They need to make sure they know all the costs involved and be able to translate that to a lender.
Okay. Does that offer the opportunity for banks to take a more flexible approach to the way they would lend?
I think it does, and I think part of the problem we've got in the mortgage market just now is that there isn't that flexibility across most of the market, and it's very much a tick box or a criteria driven lending environment. So I think there is a need for a much more flexible approach, and if lenders can provide that, I think it will help out in future where there's more of a portfolio, or what is now deemed to be a portfolio compared to what was maybe just an individual owning 3 or 4 properties in the past that didn't think of themselves as a business necessarily.
Okay. David, do you think it's a case that somebody should be looking to see the level of gearing they have?
Absolutely. We have a very, very unusual, if not crazy, situation looming that by the tax year 2020-21 there'll be some higher rate taxpayers who are highly geared who will actually pay a lot more tax than the profit they earn. And I mean, that just seems to be inconceivable, but that will in fact be the case for certain individuals. So buy-to-let landlords need to be much more mindful of the amount of borrowing they have, as MURDO referred to, especially people who are higher rate and highly geared. People will need to look about perhaps switching up, sharing a property with their spouse or civil partner, and try and mitigate any disadvantage with the new tax rules along that sort of line. So people are going to have to look very, very carefully at their own tax situation, and the model which worked in the past, where people would be highly geared and rely on capital growth over the long term, will not work to the same extent, because people will end up paying more tax than they're actually making, which is really unheard of.
And certainly that is, in reality, is what we're witnessing as well. The majority of people who are coming to us looking to expand a portfolio are not highly geared. These are people who have got large lump sums for whatever means, excuse me, and they're looking to develop more of what they've got. So my advice would usually to them would be, well, if what you've got is working and it's working well, and you've analysed that property and you think it's performing well, you've had it revalued, the rental income is strong, you aren't suffering from lots of maintenance costs and void periods, then replicate that and buy similar properties to it. Similarly, if you look at what you've got and you think that it's maybe not performing particularly well, it may make sense to diversify in different locations, so you're not relying on one particular market, one particular area, especially if you're trying to second guess where the market is going. If you're thinking, well, I'm going to try and catch where that's an up and coming area, don't put all your money in that area in case you've got it wrong. But it certainly is worth spreading the risk if there is a degree of risk. So yeah, there's no one-size-fits-all solution to that, but you've got an advantage if you are an existing property owner and you've got property under ownership, is that you've got a measurement, you've got something to measure it against to say, I'll compare it to that and I'll replicate it, or I'll do something different.
I mean, what you really try to do is get your investments to work.
Yes.
Better for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And from a banking point of view, that would always be the case. You want it to be as tax effective, as efficient as possible.
Obviously it's tax efficient, but if you get the lending levels at the appropriate amount, then compound interest is of great benefit to the landlord. with 4% compound growth in the value of a property will double in value in about 17 or 18 years. With 6% compound growth, it will double in about 12 years. So if you get the model right and it hangs together for a number of years, and you're a long-term property investor, that there are long-term gains to be had.